Hey guys, Connor from Rock Pokemon here, coming at you with another Market Monday. I am so excited to talk to you guys a little bit more about the card grading process. As you guys saw, just got a recent sub back from CGC, about 35 cards, some modern, mostly vintage. Got a few of them displayed here. And what I really wanted to talk to you guys about was some of the behind the scenes. So the process and the economics of Pokemon card grading. So we're going to chat a little bit about the front end process, and then I'm going to show you guys, my spreadsheet and behind the scenes of what it looks like to go through that entire process and what my results have been. So where it starts, hunting raw cards. So throughout 2020 and into 2021, spent a lot of time both online and in person hunting for raw minty cards, right? So largely I collect Japanese, so I like to look for a lot of Japanese cards, also first editions on the English side, specifically holographic cards, but also, plenty of commons and uncommons as well that I really enjoy or think people might really enjoy. So, I think first and foremost, that is a time-intensive process, right? So I'm extremely picky. There were times where I would just buy lots and hope to be able to extract some value out of that, right? Without seeing every single card down to the minute detail. Certainly a strategy I employed, but when it came to buying singles, both online and locally, it was a very, time-consuming, tedious process where you're looking for a specific card. You have to be very patient as the listings come up, or as you come across them online in hobby shops or locally in hobby shops. And I was just really picky. Asked for tons of pictures. You got to see cards at angles. Like a good example is this Mew, right? So the reverse hollows, they can look great, off the face or in a scan, but when you angle them, they can look, really, really scratched. Their kind of true identity is revealed. So tons of pictures. Had a lot of luck sourcing directly from Japan, some from the UK as well, and then obviously, United States, both online and in person. Furthermore, some cards came from packs, like these amazing rares I both pulled myself from Shiny Star V, a set I really enjoyed around last Christmas time. As we've previously discussed, opening packs to pull cards to then grade is not a good investment strategy. It is simply gambling. But I can tell you that from both buying singles and buying lots, I was and have always been focused on the very highest quality I could find at the lowest cost basis possible. So that might seem obvious, but again, guys, whether you're buying raw cards to grade them for your personal collection or you're buying them to grade them to then sell, both of which I do, that cost basis, your entry point on the raw card, is extremely important. And as grading costs went up, especially throughout 2021, right, as we saw increases from Beckett and CGC and PSA, it became even more important to, make sure the basis on the card itself, that initial purchase of the raw card was as low as you could get. So very time-intensive process, really enjoyable though. One of my favorite parts of the hobby is getting to purchase raw cards and submit them for grading. I've just truly enjoyed it so much, and think I've been able to extract a lot of value through a few very strict methods that I'll get into. So I think a good place to start is, once you've purchased that raw card, where do you go from there? Well, first thing to do is pre-grading, right? So again, very time-intensive process, inspecting every raw card. I self-grade all 4 areas: centering, surface, corners, and edges. You'll see in my spreadsheet, I guessed the grades on all of those. and then came up with an overall grade. And so that process, I tended to be very strict, overly conservative with my pre-grades, both in general on like what the grade would be, but also when thinking about the value, right? So if I pre-graded this cell B at a 9, then I was probably going to assume I could get the value of perhaps an 8. Helps mitigate some of that downside risk, if the market moves against you, and also just to be more conservative, because we're not professional graders. We don't work at CGC, PSA, or Beckett. That is their job. And, we're going to get things wrong, right? I definitely have gotten things wrong. I've missed things. I've been off. And I talked about that a lot in my longer reveal video. But what I can tell you is that the pre-grading process is incredibly important because it allows you to not waste money on grading cards that have no business being graded. Now, anyone can grade whatever they want, right? But if you're doing it in a way to extract value, either for your personal collection or to eventually sell, you want to be really, really strict around what you're sending, because the higher the grade, the higher the quality of that card, the more value that's going to command, right? Now, there's plenty of cards that have a ton of sentimental value, and they're worth grading for the preservation and authentication and all of that. Not disputing that at all. Just talking more from that like value extraction side. You don't want to kid yourself on what the grade's going to be, right? You don't want to just say, hey, card looks good, send it in, and meanwhile you never flipped it over and the back's completely trashed and you wonder why it comes back a 6. So that's the pre-grading process. And then submitting. So I personally used a middleman, my boy Jared at CanoShark. You guys know I talk about him all the time. He's a great human. Really respect and trust him, and have really enjoyed working with him. With all my my grading needs, but also for some of like the pack displays he has, and gotten to know him over time. I got one behind here from my base set, 291 yen Japanese pack. Put that back in the stand. Love those displays. But why did I use a middleman? Because you might be saying, hey, a middleman's more expensive, right? You're gonna pay a couple extra bucks a card. Well, yes, but one, I didn't know how many cards I was gonna end up grading. And I knew that I wanted to make use of all 3 grading services, PSA, Beckett, and CGC, all for different types of cards and different uses. So I think that it was really important to work with a middleman who could submit to all 3 of those places, because it allowed me to not need a membership at each grading service and hit some sort of minimum submission amount in order to get my subs in. So that, and I was also able to spend my time focused on the pre-grading process and the hunting down of cards process, and not have to worry about the entering process, that manual data entry standpoint. That would have been fine, and I have no issue doing it, and I'm comfortable with all three websites and companies and their process. But it took, you're paying for a service, right? And Jared CanoShark did an incredible job with the accuracy, especially with, I submit a lot of Japanese, so it takes a lot of, looking up and all that. So super stoked to have worked with him and to be working with him, because it really just gave me that peace of mind and that ease around the whole submission process, and allowed me to focus on what I felt like I was good at, which was sourcing cards and then pre-grading them. So all that to be said, I think that, I took an approach where, because of that, I could also drip out submissions. So, I could send a batch of cards in at a time. They might be to various grading companies, right? Like my first submission was Beckett and CGC. So was my second. My third had PSA in there. For, a variety of reasons, different card types, certain companies only grade certain cards, all these things, right? All those factors come into play. Some are more strict on certain areas, yada, yada. So, in that, why do this at all, right? So for me, super fun, one of the most enjoyable parts of the hobby, right? But also a part that I really wanted to, talk to you guys about is the bifurcated nature of my submission process. So one side you have PC, right? So Southern Island set, right? I wanted that in my forever collection. I have the English set. I have sealed Japanese. I do not yet have sealed English, but I also wanted a graded Japanese set. And so I set out to find a beautiful raw set that I felt like I could submit myself. It's something really cool to have in my personal collection. And the idea was to extract value by grading the cards myself instead of just buying a set of 9s, right? So when it comes to my PC, I want to at least break even, right? So if this card sells for, let's just make simple numbers. This is not accurate, and I'll show you later, but $100, and the card cost me, this is not valid, but just bear with me, $75, and it cost me $25 to grade it. Let's just say, that's a break even, close enough, right? About $100 both sides, right? So at least I didn't, lose compared to just buying the card. But I at least want to do that with PC because I know that I love the card and I'm going to have it, but I don't want to waste time and money grading a card and then, being on the short end of the stick there when I could have just been patient and bought one for less and not had to wait for the grade to come back. So when I'm selling, these are actually going in my PC, but I have duplicates, and then this card, the set of this card and its entire set, I'm probably going to be selling. I want to at least 2x my money there. Because I get the enjoyment out of the whole submission process, but I want it to be, at least worth the squeeze. So at least a double on my all-in cost. So we're talking card cost plus grading cost minus all the frictional costs of selling. I net 2x in my pocket at the end of the day. That would be great for any of those cards. So again, it's it's an investment strategy. You can grade to flip, or create a low basis card to hold on to for the long term to potentially sell down the road, right? So some of these things I might, some cards I grade I might list but not be in a hurry to sell. Some of them I might just want to flip to maybe cover my grading costs or just sell into a healthy market, what have you. Kind of depends on the timing and everything, but I'm definitely a fan of selling into every market because I think that over time you'll end up doing all right. You just do it in various degrees, right? So you don't fire sell into a falling market if you don't need to sell. I don't need to sell any of these cards. I'm happy to hold on to all of them. An overarching aspect to this entire thing is that I only really grade cards I like to a flaw. So if I was stuck owning every single card I submitted, I would be super happy because I like them. That's probably to my detriment. There were plenty of cards that I could have bought and graded and sold that didn't mean much to me, or I didn't like the artwork or what have you, but it just didn't really seem worth it to me. I only like to collect things I love. I'm a bit of a minimalist even though I'm a collector, so I really like to collect things I love, these artworks, all of them I so appreciate, whether I keep them forever or sell them. So it's a really cool way for me to create value for my PC by buying raw and grading it for a fraction of what it would cost me to buy the slab. So I'm going to talk you guys through this Neo3 file, Neo Premium File 3 set and what I did, and also probably the Southern Island set. So we'll take a look at the spreadsheet. I'll show you my pre-grading. We'll show you the numbers. We'll rock and roll here. All right, so let's talk about the Neo3 file. Where did I get it? What happened? So picked up a local lot of a bunch of cards for $40, and in that lot was these 9 cards including this hollow celebi, in their original folder. I've actually got the folder right here. I showed you guys in the other video, but it's right here. Really cool. Got Entei and Suicune and Raikou on the back. You can see on the inside, basically you've got it's just like a single binder sheet, and they were just, in their little sleeves, right? Like a normal binder, just single card sleeves, 3x3, 9 cards, right? So basically what I did was I said, okay, that whole $40 lot, basically I just kind of divvied it up. I said, all right, close enough. I put $4 for each card because I had, there were a couple other specific ones that I felt like I was really paying for. Now I really could put 0 here because I was able to extract more value out of that lot than what I paid for it, meaning I sold raws from that lot for more than $40 total. So really my cost basis here is 0, but I was conservative. Let's just call it $4-ish a card. Just to have some cost there. And then grading cost was $15 a card, I believe, with subgrades. And then I added a little bit for the shipping for each. So you end up with basically a grading cost of a little over $135. You got card cost of $36. You end up with a total cost close to $175, right? So then what I did was I looked at all 9 cards. I went through an intensive process of pre-grading, centering, surface, corners, and edges. Did an average, even though they're weighted differently, just to give me a ballpark. Made my own grade guess, and then here's what they actually were able to get. So as we talked about in the previous grading video, Pseudo Wudo was one that I missed on, came in lower than expected. But a lot of these came in at or above what I expected. So Celebi, I hit it on the nose. Lugia, hit it on the nose. Sneasel, Raikou, did better on Entei. Suicune on the nose, better on Skarmory, and Ho-Oh on the nose. So again, as I talked about in my video, I was very, very lenient on surface to a flaw. As you can see, this actually got an 8.5 on the surface, but I ended up doing better on the centering at a 9, and worse on the corners at a 9, and same on the edges. So all in all, ended up at the grade. So then I just took a ballpark of, you can do one of two things, right? You can say, hey, what's the current market value on this group of cards, or where would I really want to exit, right? If I'm going to hold this for, let's say it was a 3 to 5 year hold, what would I want my kind of exit price on the whole thing to be? So this is just a ballpark estimate based on some recent solds and also what's available out there on average. Just really ballpark. Could be less, could be more. Then I basically take my cost here. So you got my total cost of almost 175. Basically my gross profit is the sum of the profit on each card, which is effectively the current market value minus the cost to me, right? And then basically I had the ROI on that card, right? So basically easy way to put it is the profit over the cost, right, in absolute terms. So then I did net profit. I basically took what did I do? I basically took 85% of it to account for eBay fees and shipping. So just ballpark average. But you guys can see here that it cost me about 175. It's going to be, maybe 425 in gross profit, right? I got some ROI calculations here, yada, yada, right? So this one ended up being just, what was my profit over my cost? It's about a 2.5x, right? If my cost was 175, right? Here you go, I'll show you guys, 175, right? And my gross profit was 425. If you basically take this and multiply it by 2.5, you get a percentage. But if we want dollars, 437, so close enough. So it's about a 2.5. It's a 2.46x, right? So in my ballpark range of getting my double on a gross basis, I'm pretty close. You guys can see it's really going to vary by card, right? So the Celebi that I think can do really well, that's a huge gain, whereas pretty modest profit on some of the like this is probably the pseudo Wudo, I think. Yeah, so I really have that coming in at much lower. So I hope that's helpful for you guys. I could go through the same exercise on Southern Islands, but I don't think we really need to. I think that gets it across. Same idea, except for that one I bought a lot. It was the entire set raw, went through my whole grading process, and I think the most important thing to talk about, guys, is that this entire process could have gone terribly wrong, if I had not been so strict in my pre-grading. If this Celebi, if I had said it was going to be a 9 and it come back up 7 or even an 8, I mean that does a lot to the value of that of that set, right? And what I'm able to extract there, whether it was for my personal collection or something I wanted to sell. So I think you got to be just super prudent with what you submit and super strict on your pre-grading. Again, just really taking the time to inspect every single card, front, back, corners, edges, surface, all of these things. And at the end of the day, I was surprised to get any 9s, especially on vintage, especially on the hollows. I don't dispute any grades that I got. At the end of the day, I'm not a professional grader. You're never going to hear me complain about the grades that I got. I mean, these are fantastic cards, and I, at the end of the day, trust the discretion of the grading company. Yes, mistakes can be made, but at the end of the day, usually if you get a grade that's not what you thought it was going to be, it's probably your fault. I'll show you guys a little bit of the rest of this set as we talk through the end of this, but it's an opportunity to learn and get better. I mean, I figured out that I need to be much more diligent on my surface pre-grading. It's no one's fault but myself. I should have inspected them much closer. I should have understood what that meant. And I should have taken the steps necessary to pre-grade it more effectively. It's a privilege to get to do this. It's so much fun. And, I'm not going to complain that a professional company gave me grades that I deserved, right? Whether it's an 8.5 on this Lugia because it's an 8 surface, or it's a 9 on this Skarmory, right? It is what it is, and it's just an opportunity to get better, right? So something I'm really privileged to have the opportunity to do. Really love this. So in summary, guys, be super diligent, both in your pre-grading process and with what you actually submit, because it can be the difference between making or breaking your entire strategy. Shoot for that super low cost basis on those graded cards, especially on the raw cards, especially as grading costs go up. Fees matter, guys. Fees on that sale are going to dig into your profits. So remember gross versus net returns. And at the end of the day, don't kid yourself, guys, because if you try to fool yourself into thinking a card's better than it is, you're only going to be hurting yourself, because at the end of the day, if those cards come back lower than you thought they would, it's probably no one's fault but yourself, and it's just an opportunity to get better. But don't kid yourself. Be super strict, super prudent. Take the time necessary to pre-grade effectively. So I'm Connor from Rock Pokemon, guys. I hope this was helpful as we talked about kind of those economics behind card grading. Really enjoyed, talking this through with you guys. Hope it was helpful. Please remember to like, comment, turn on the notification bell, subscribe if you haven't, and I look forward to seeing you in the next Market Monday. As always, collect what you love.